good morning, namaskaram, as they say in this part of the world. And what better way to start the morning than on a healthy note with someone who in a sense has come to symbolize and epitomize the best of private healthcare. I think Dr. Prathap Reddy is a proud Telugu Bidda, but more than that, is a proud citizen of this country, and for what he's achieved in the field of healthcare, I think he deserves a much bigger applause than what we did this morning. 64 institutes, 64 hospitals now across the country, I'm told. Did you ever imagine that when you decided way back in the 1970s and 1983 when you set up your first Apollo hospital, that one day, 25 years later, you would have as many, or 35 years later, would have as many as 64 hospitals, Dr. Reddy?
Really, my wish was only one thing, that care should not be denied to people, and especially people who are in the developing and underdeveloped world. There was a huge difference between healthcare, what was available for the people in the West and people in India and other countries. And that's made me, I lost several patients, but in '79 I lost a very touching patient. I'm a cardiologist. I used to send my patients to my good friend and I say my guru, Dr. Denton Cooley in Houston, for the bypass. When medicine didn't work and they need bypass. And there was no acceptable program at that country at that time. 3 months later he died, leaving behind a 31-year-old wife, 4-year-old daughter and 2-year-old son, absolutely stunned. You know why? They couldn't raise $50,000 to go to US. Then I thought to myself, if Indian doctors, Indian scientists, Indian engineers are par excellence overseas, why can't we do that here? So then, to conceptualize at that time was very difficult because hospital was not, private hospital was not considered anything, not eligible for banking, not eligible for any of the things. It was just the government. Unfortunately, at that time, government, maybe a decade before, when the new developments in healthcare didn't come, they were sufficient. But when newer things, which made a significant difference, in this case, patients with heart problems need coronary bypass if the medicine didn't work. So this is why I said I want to do this. Many of my friends said, damn it, you made the first mistake coming back from US after so many years. Now we are so successful as a cardiologist. Why do you want to again ruin this? So anyway, I said, no, I'm not doing it for myself. I think the country needs it. If one family is distressed like this, how many more are going to distress because of that $50,000? So it was not easy. I made at least 50 trips to Delhi because those days medical equipment was called a luxury item and the duty was 360%. Fortunately, the Prime Minister was convinced. In a matter of 5 days, they brought it to zero duty with a social commitment that it should be used free for poor patients. That was one. Then to get the funding, the first finance minister of India then was our late President Venkataraman. He couldn't do it because they said there's no way hospitals are allowed to do this. Next, our recent ex-president Pram Mukherjee was the finance minister. On the 5th attempt, he told the finance secretary, Mr. Malhotra, are you going to prove that I'm an inefficient finance minister of India? He got a shock. He said, sir, he said, this concept of turning and bringing people back to India and establishing such institutions is very much favored by our Prime Minister. If I don't do it, he'll go there. That means I am an inefficient Finance Minister of India. That changed the whole thing. Mr. Malhotra took me to his room, wrote 4 lines saying, I can borrow from the bank, 50% from bank and 50% foreign exchange loan. The first hospital started in Chennai with 150 beds. But by God's grace, I think we made that as the first group, the family, the team of people who were there, did their very best. And when they did their very best, and it was nothing short of any hospital anywhere in the world. I did for coronary bypass, there's only that one instance. We have now done 180,000 coronary bypass surgeries. We equate ourselves, in cardiology. Cleveland Clinic is supposed to be the best. We equate with them. Constantly, we are 99.2, they are 99.4% success rate, and the other way. This year, we are 99.6%, they are 99.4%. So I think this is what they did. It's not just the surgeons. Whatever they needed to back up in technology, we gave them that. But the entire force, the doctor, the nurse, the team, worked as one, with one purpose, saying, we must live up to the expectations of people who have put faith in us. So this is why I think in every single thing, like for example, transplants, heart-lung transplant, liver transplant, kidney transplant, intestines, pancreas, in this we are world number 1. I went to the leading hospital 3 years ago. They gave me a bunch of flowers and said, Dr. Reddy, this is for you, for overtaking us after 21 years.
Not bad. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. It's a wonderful story, and we could hear it all day. Because it is a story of what can be achieved through, in a sense, one man's vision. He's been very, very, very humble when he says God's grace, Sangeeta. But beyond God's grace, there are the Reddy entrepreneurship genes. Plus, obviously, a doctor's desire to bring about change. How easy or difficult is it to have him as your chairman and constantly measure up to the standards that he has set? Is that easy or difficult? Is he a tough taskmaster?
They did everything without asking me.
Now I'm asking you. Sangeeta, you can hold the mic close here.
Okay. I think it's fabulous in one dimension because of the power of the inspiration. So even though you're working 24/7, you're actually not working. And that, I think, is the true secret behind everything that he does. And it's not just 4 of us who are driven to really be 24/7, keep your phones on when you go to sleep in the night, a series of things, effortlessly get back into the car if you get a call saying someone in ICU is sick. It's a series of things like that. But the ability to keep pushing and not be satisfied by that one big hospital, which was a major success, I think is because of the force of the inspiration and the depth of the need of this country. And when you put those two in juxtaposition with the intrinsic skill of the Indian doctor, the power of the Indian nurse and the team, it is a very, very valuable combination.
Does he still call up at 2 a.m. in the morning if there is a problem?
He will call up at any time. And the beauty of it is that he doesn't ever say, I'm sorry I'm calling you, or there's no apology about it, because it's an automatic instinct. In fact, his famous line is that, why aren't you at work on Sunday? Illness knows no holidays. Where are you? So it's kind of expected. And the beauty is that the entire team has also lived up to that culture.
You're 84 or 85 going on 18, because I'm told yesterday you took a helicopter from Chennai to your village where you have a 60-bed hospital, oversaw what was happening there, went back to Chennai, attended a function of Vice President Venkaiah Naidu for the Telugu conference, and then flew here to Hyderabad, and this morning you're looking fresher than anyone else here. What's the secret? There must be some. Is that what good doctors are like? That good doctors are always energetic.
I think the secret is happiness. If you are happy about what you're doing, believe me, we can do many, many, many things. Whatever we have done in healthcare, at best we can say we are good. But there are great things that need to be done and we can do it.
Do you still think sometimes that I'm going to, you see a patient in critical care, you say, I will handle this particular patient, I can still do a coronary bypass surgery if necessary?
No, I think I realized that I'm incompetent.
Surely not.
But I really miss that, holding that strength and giving a prescription. I enjoy once in a way the patients who bring their old prescription, 35-year-old prescription, which I have given to them, and they're continuously seeing it.
So do you still see yourself as a doctor first and then an entrepreneur, or is it an entrepreneur and the medical part has slowly drifted away?
I think it's a combination of both. I see that he has come to us for help in getting well. That's why I'm a doctor. But I think I became so-called the team maker. And the team does it. Starting from the person who receives him first in the reception, till the time he reaches the doctor's door, there is so much of anxiety for him. So I think all of these have been smoothed out because of my wonderful daughters and all the team. And more importantly, it is the suggestions given by the patient's relatives, saying, this is all fine, I got well, but a little more here. That I think was a very important thing.
Because that's coming at a time when private healthcare, Sangeeta, faces the challenge of constant public scrutiny. One thing goes wrong, there'll be a newspaper headline out there. Medical negligence of the slightest kind today can become a major case. Are you therefore under that kind of pressure, particularly in the private healthcare sector? That private healthcare at the end of the day is too expensive, it's not delivering for the patient if the patient feels he or she hasn't got the kind of treatment. Are you under pressure in the private healthcare sector 24/7 today?
So let me answer this in two parts. I think the pressure on quality and the stress that there should be no medical negligence is an appropriate pressure, because not just India, but every human being deserves the best. And I think a medical system is set up to ensure that we always do the best. The methodology with which it's being questioned is really, I think, something that all of us need to debate about. Because the cost effectiveness of care is something that India has proven time and time again. Indian procedures are 1/10 of global prices. And the problem, the root of the problem, is not so much in the cost of a particular procedure at an ethical good hospital, but the fact that people do not have insurance coverage, and when they have to pay for it out of pocket, that is driving them to indebtedness. So we need to solve the problem at the root. And the root is really that we need universal health coverage, number one. We need appropriate levels of care and good governance, and we, as public, we must continue to question what is quality, what are pricing, but the answers and the solutions are not in cut the price, give it free, and therefore potentially damage the health sector. The answer lies in finding a different kind of coverage.
Is the answer...
What?
Yes.
And if I may just add more thing on this, I think a country becomes significant by the depth of the questions we ask, or the courage of the questions that we ask. A country must be able to ask those courageous questions, but also by the depth of the answers that we give. So we must listen to people who understand the sector, who appreciate economics, other countries who have done the same, and build a system which enables high quality care, not force a defensive medicine or force a system to cut corners because the price is always being questioned. Let's question value. Let's question transparency. Let's question outcomes and question methodologies of access. And then I think the medical profession are the same people who telescope the developments of the Western world. When we started in '83, those developments of the Western world were telescoped in 10 years to now say we can benchmark with the best in the West. Imagine if people had to go abroad for that treatment. Imagine if the Indian pharma sector was not manufacturing medicines at the cost that they do. But if we cut their budgets and they stop researching, in 5 years you will feel the pain. If you squeeze hospitals today and they stop adding beds, in the next 2 years, you will feel that pain. And these are the deep questions that I request people to ask so that we get the answers which will build for today and tomorrow.
I think that's wonderfully put. I think that really is wonderfully put. But you wanted to add a point there, Dr. Reddy.
I just want to say, whatever word, not just Apollo, there are at least 500 to 1,000 good hospitals in our country today, which will give the same level of care as the best hospitals in the world.
But would there be
We
still...
give two more things, the
Would there
care
be-
and
yes.
compassion. But finally, when it comes to cost, a coronary bypass surgery those days was $50,000. We kept as $5,000. Today, after 33 years, in US, the heart surgery in major institutions is $130,000. But big institutions in India are doing it for $3,000. So that means we have innovated by increasing the outcomes. From when we started it was 92%. Today it's 99% outcome in coronary bypass. But our cost is contained from $5,000 to less than $3,000. This is because of continuous innovation. This is what Indians, when they're concentrated and focused, can do better than the best people anywhere in the world.
Are there still all too few though? Are they, given the scale of the problem in this country, are there still all too few quality hospitals, and the gap in particular between the services being offered by the government and those being offered by private hospitals is widening all the time? And that, in a sense, is symptomatic of an unequal society. Is the real challenge to bridge that gap?
I think you brought out a very, very, very crucial thing and a big challenge that's happening to the country. As we were facing the older problems, there is something that is new, which is coming like a tsunami, called the NCDs, non-communicable diseases. We are the diabetic capital of the world, heart capital of the world, cancer capital of the world, infectious disease hospital. This is what NCDs are. And World Economic Forum said the clock will start ticking on 1st January 2015, and it will show its ugly head by 2020, and by 2030 it's going to be disastrous. And 70% of the deaths are going to be from NCDs. And what's most important is the NCDs are going to affect the younger age group. Every single day, there are 600 heart incidents happening. Out of that, 70% are people below 40. But they don't know. Most of the people, when they get this pain first or discomfort, they don't know it is from the heart. It's only there are a few lucky people who call the doctor and then realize. So I think this is a huge problem that we are going to face. We have been working with the government. Nothing has happened. I'm very happy the present Ministry of Health has taken the first step saying that they will screen 500 million checkups. 50 crore people will have the checkup, and they call for the bids. Apollo did not get it. I am not unhappy. But it's the TCS Charities which is going to take up and do this. And I hope everyone, my wish is, everyone must know whether they are healthy. Because the basic thing when I leave, I want to leave in everybody's mind, what's most important is health and happiness. And these two will come because however severe these NCDs look, all of them are treatable. If you diagnose the heart problem early, you can defuse it in a matter of a week and bring it to normal in a few months.
So is there
Cancers, if you diagnose early, it's curable. Today it's a death sentence. I told even our Prime Minister saying, you should be able to announce in 5 years, there will be no cancer cervix. Like that, I think all the oncology problems, if detected early, it can be cured.
So is the solution a public-private partnership to some of the questions that you've raised, which you're looking for answers? Is the solution, Sangeeta, public-private partnership, or is the solution the fact that the government has to invest much more than it is at the moment in healthcare?
So I think it's a combination, Rajdeep. Unfortunately, like people say, there is no single silver bullet in healthcare. It's a complex system. But I think layer one is create infrastructure, whether it's government funded or private funded. Layer two is manage that infrastructure well, and that is skilling, equipping, innovation, process. Layer three is ensure people can afford it, which is universal health coverage. And layer five, which is the most important, is ensure that you pick up problems early, and that is national screening. And at the end of this all is that blur the lines between public and private, because honestly the public does not care. The rickshaw puller knows very well how to take a diagnostic test at a lab which is open, how to take that to a government doctor, and finally have surgery in the third private hospital. This is what is happening, is that people need to navigate this complex system themselves, and we are not building an integrated system to enable smarter, better care. And so if we look at these, we have all the answers. We just need to implement.
But how do you integrate the system? I mean, you built a hospital, 60-bed hospital in your village. You've got mobile vans. Now, they're lucky that it is Dr. Reddy's village. But
no, so you gave us a headway into one of the best examples that we have, because in his village, which started, the village program started in the year 2000 with the single 60-bed hospital. But even then, we had a passport to healthcare, which was the country's first comprehensive health insurance at ₹1 a day. Then we had telemedicine, and we had alternate medicine. Then came yoga, then came all the social determinants of health, clean drinking water, lighting, sanitation, kitchen gardens, yoga for women, preventive health care. And then the government saw this. So today actually in Chittoor, we have a connectivity. We're managing the government hospital, we're doing mobile vans, and we're now talking about an integrated layer of looking at the analytics and creating a personal health record for people. So Chittoor and the government of Andhra Pradesh and Apollo are showing an integrated health model. So it is possible, it is happening, and then with the Chief Minister's Insurance Fund or the Arogya Shri equivalent, you also have access to care to go into a private sector and be reimbursed so that the hospitals can sustain.
I'm just wondering, is there a, you've given the example of Chittoor. Is there a gap also between the South and the North? We are in a South conclave. And the fact is that Andhra Pradesh, Telangana and Tamil Nadu and Kerala to an extent, but certainly these first three states are leaders when it comes to private healthcare and their ability to integrate with governments. Are the governments more forward-looking? When I look at Uttar Pradesh, every year the encephalitis deaths that take place in a Gorakhpur or in Bihar with Kala Azar, and I compare it with what you have achieved in the South. Is there a South-North divide? Should Apollos have more hospitals rather than focusing on the South?
First, let me say, I can't say I'm a South Indian, because if I go to my Indore hospital or Guwahati, they'll say, you are a Southerner, what is this? I'm an Indian.
I'm an Indian.
And we are working in Indian healthcare. But I think it's a wonderful question that you asked. There are many, many things that we can do with the technology that's available here. Later on, Sangeeta probably will tell you what we are doing using technology. But I think the government should play a significant role in bringing awareness. And they have a large base of 600,000 ASHA workers. They should be taught how they can spread wellness to people and how to keep people well. Because most of these, if you take, I think this is what we are doing in our village. That example can be easily
so you could take it to a Gorakhpur? would you be ready, would Apollo be ready to take the Chittoor example to a Gorakhpur if Adityanath tomorrow said, I need to try and create an integrated healthcare system in my home constituency? Wow. Would you take that up as a challenge to ensure that no child dies of encephalitis in the coming monsoons?
200%.
200%. You're ready.
I'm ready, and just to this thing, in Aragonda, in the village, in the last 18 months, we have, by God's grace and a lot of work, not had a single maternal mortality and had just one baby die. Not a single maternal mortality. We are happy and ready in whichever form, whether it's share the expertise, come in there and do it, find a PPP model, create sustainable. But in the north-south, I do want to add, Rajdeep, that I think governments are looking up now. In Himachal, for the last 3 years, we've managed the emergency rooms of Khaza and Kailong using the expertise of telemedicine from the doctors in the Chennai emergency room. This is a successful model. We're looking at villages in the northeast using, again, telemedicine so that these far-flung areas can reach out. In the CSCs, which is a central government program, there's connectivity in 60,000 villages. So the beginnings of this technology-enabled access to healthcare is showing in the north and the south.
And is the philosophy...
I think in Hyderabad, we must say, the first satellite telemedicine in the world took place here when Honorable Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu was here. Bill Clinton, when he came as a last visit as the president, he came and inaugurated our telemedicine, connecting my village to the hospital here. In the village, they were examining a child, 14-year-old. Our cardiologist at here saw the child and told the mother, your child has a hole in the heart. Please bring the child to us during vacation. We'll fix it. When she goes back, school opens, she'll go back. Then he added a very nice word. She will lead a normal life. You know, President, his happy tears came down. And he said, Dr. Reddy, this is a very wonderful thing that you're doing. The rest of the world should follow the lead so that people in the remote places can get the benefit of icubitic medicine. Why I'm emphasizing now is we have tremendous IT. And it is now, if we don't act, I think we're a great fault taking healthcare to every nook and corner of our country and show this example for the rest of the world.
So, but what is the driving philosophy? Is it revenue maximization or is it welfare maximization? What is your driving philosophy today as you keep expanding? Is it revenue maximization or is it welfare maximization, or do they go hand in hand?
I think revenue comes next in our whole philosophy. We need it. Without revenue, we can't run a hospital, we can't grow. But most important is to keep people well. What we know, we must tell others.
So, you know, because again, private hospitals suffer from the stigma that you're like essentially exploitative, is what your critics will say.
So I think the way that we should look at this is what we call good profit. So good profit is fair, ethical profit. It is profit that can be used to reward shareholders who took the call and said, we will invest in a healthcare institution rather than a liquor factory. We will invest in a healthcare institution rather than multiple other things, whether it's entertainment or plastic or any other sector, because it's essential for the country. So you give returns to shareholders, but it's good and ethical profit, and then you redeploy a portion of that profit to continue to grow, to serve more and more people. And you are absolutely right, Rajdeep, and that is good care and profit go hand in hand.
If a VVIP comes to Apollo and on the other hand there's a dirt poor man who comes to Apollo, who gets preference?
Both will get equal
Both
care.
will get. Again, I want to give you one example of when MGR was the chief minister.
Yes.
He was totally breathless and very, very, very critical. I was coming from Delhi at Nagpur station, they connected, saying MGR wants advice from you. So they told me, the doctors told me what it is, and he said, I will go only if Dr. Reddy is in Apollo. But I'm in there. So I told him, I don't want to waste time. I'll get down and go to the hospital, make all arrangements for you by the time you come. So he agreed. And he came at about 9:30 in the night. At about 4 in the morning, he could speak a few words. The doctors, all of them treated. I remember our nephrologist telling me, sir, I gave an animal dose of Lasix for him to remove that fluid. In any way, he could open his eyes and say a few words and ask, do you do this to everybody? My answer was, yes, we do, but in your case, we created an ICU right here. But we take all others to the intensive care unit.
I know, but that's a wonderful story again, because years later we've had the Jayalalitha case, and again the hospital has found itself under the scanner, because you find yourself almost caught in the political tangle when you handle a VVIP guest like Jayalalitha in your hospital. Has that been an education or learning that Apollo Hospital finds itself in the midst of a political controversy in Tamil Nadu today?
Pradeep, I think we are in a country where people are clever to talk both ways. They talk of Apollo saying it saved so many lives, but they also talk, in this case also, I've said before, she came very critical. I thought she was absolutely recovered. The doctors made tremendous effort. She recovered, talking well. We shifted from the intensive care unit. Unfortunately, there's what's called acute respiratory distress syndrome, which put the heart at a standstill. So there is something like, that's why I said God's grace.
So Rajiv, the question you asked, I must add that, when she came in and people were saying, oh my God, another VIP, and, it disrupts the day-to-day function, it's tension, etc. And Dad said, everyone is a human being. We will apply the same principles of care, and don't let all this bother you. Treat her like a patient. So I think some of those core values, and then again, you look at it in retrospect, and Preeta actually asked one of the politicians who later made comments, and she said, we did so much and you know it, and how can you say the things you're saying? He said in Tamil very casually, that's politics, ma. If I need healthcare, I'll come back to you. So that's life, and you learn to live with it. When your heart is clear about what you're doing, and your goals are so powerful, I think you don't let these things bother you too much.
Let me get the audience a couple of questions, if there are people who have questions for Dr. Reddy and Sangeeta Reddy. Anybody there? Anybody? Yes, the gentleman there, yes.
Dr. Reddy, Sangeeta, there's severe shortage of doctors that we know, and many from the government hospitals actually join the corporate world. But when it comes to patients, the bureaucrats, politicians go to the private hospitals. So how do you, given your good offices or what, how are you trying to solve this problem? And second, when you talk of value healthcare, then there is also the issue of overcharging, which is, so how do you deal with it in terms of when you have value healthcare to deal with, and at the same time when they're saying overcharging element, so how do you resolve that?
Do you overcharge?
I think you put 3 questions in the same question.
He's a journalist.
For the last one, I'll charge. There is no question of overcharge. If you look at any of our treatments, our cost is less than 10%. We buy, I openly tell, if I open a hospital today, I tell them this hospital has state-of-the-art equipment. Like for example, if you take an MRI, our MRI we charge 2,000 rupees, but they charge $2,000 using the same machine. And are we expensive? It is treated as, in their mind, they make up this saying that you are very expensive. But it's not people who experience the healthcare that make this comment. 99% of it, it's all, a vague, irresponsible statement.
And if I may add, I really wanted this thing that they are, number one is if you have to pay for healthcare out of pocket, it is expensive. So it's very important for people whether they take a 1,000 rupee premium or a 20,000 rupee premium to use a mechanism to cover yourself in insurance. The second important point I want to make is that most Indian hospitals, and this is a philosophy that Dad has practiced, is we follow a tiered structure. So we have the general ward, you have the sharing rooms, you have the deluxe, and you have a few suites, maybe 2 to 3 suites. So the rooms and the tarif reflect the demography of India. And it's like the Indian railway. Whether you're going in a non-AC or an AC, you're all going to reach that destination. And that is the core philosophy. So we cannot pick up out of context one procedure, one treatment. You need to look at the holistic aspect of the care.
And I know this patients from general ward or single room or super deluxe suite all go to the same theatre, same surgeon, same post-op and same outcomes.
Yes.
And the other question that you may also say, there is severe shortage. We need to double our hospital beds, double our doctors, triple our nurses and quadruple our paramedics and build 80,000 hospital beds per year, every year. Unfortunately, our government need not build it, at least if they may give some sort of relief for people for future investment. This is what happened. We got then FDI, 100% everything, but I hope the present government realizes there is a severe shortage of the entire health structure. And what it needs is a little fillip.
One final question, yes.
I wanted to ask, there's been a lot of talk about doctors in hospitals, private hospitals especially, ordering tests that they don't need, that patients don't need because they have certain targets to meet. Is this true? Do doctors actually have targets? And is there something in hospitals called mortality meetings in which it's discussed and said, Dr. XYZ, you have not met your target for this month by not generating XYZ turnover? Is this
I think it's
true?
Totally false. It might happen in some odd thing in life. You will all see someone, a black wolf somewhere. But none of the decent hospitals will ever ask. The tests are ordered in the interest of the patients. I'll tell you, in Hyderabad, one day they did on a patient an X-ray chest. There was an enlargement in the what we call mediastinum, and some glands were present. So the doctor said, let's give him anti-tuberculosis treatment, which is very common, and repeat after 6 weeks an MRI. And they went to Bombay, they did an MRI, and it was lymphoma. And they filed a case on us for a few crores. Fortunately,
no, but are there targets? But are there targets that you set your private doctors?
So the only targets that we have at Apollo are quality-related targets.
Yes.
We do not have volume-based targets. We have no linkage with the diagnostic test and what the doctor does. So that is very categorically clear at Apollo.
At Apollo, but is that happening across private hospitals? Is there greater pressure? As I came back, the debate between revenue maximization and welfare maximization. Is there pressure to keep building on revenues?
not in any hospital which cares to give good work.
Okay, let me therefore ask both of you in conclusion. 4 daughters, doctor, all of you sitting at the dinner table. Do you talk about health care or do you talk about the weather?
No prizes for that answer. It's healthcare all the time.
It's healthcare all the time.
All the time.
You talk healthcare. You talk healthcare at the dinner table.
We do.
And
And
I'm
mom
told-
complains.
And
Mom
I'm told now
complains.
finally
What's
one
good,
of
what's not good in that food?
and I'm told finally one of your 10 grandchildren, your youngest grandchild, has decided to become a doctor.
Yes.
So it's going to go into another generation.
I was very happy that Sangeeta's youngest son, my youngest grandson, he made rounds with me in 4 or 5 hospitals and finally decided, Tata bless me, I want to do medicine.
We've had a wonderful session this morning, taking us through various aspects of private healthcare. I think Dr. Prathap Reddy, Sangeeta Reddy, next time we meet, maybe those 64 hospitals will have become 640 hospitals across this country. All the very best.
Country needs it, and I think everybody will be happy and do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Give them a very big hand, ladies and gentlemen.